Hi all, Bones here from Oz BSA Bantams and welcome back to the workshop. Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, what we're going to be doing is going on with the Sellicks Beach race bike. So I've got to make the side covers, the fiberglass side covers. So in order to do the fiberglass side covers, this body piece has to be in its correct position. In order for this to be in its correct position, I've got to build the seat frame. So that's what I'm up to now. I've had a couple of little battery issues, not issues, but I've got to charge it. So I'm already well underway with the seat frame, and I'll give you a look in just a sec about where we're up to and what we're trying to do. So this is the initial start of our seat frame. I'll be honest with you, I didn't want it heavy out of steel. However, the seat actually starts here. So you basically only got 2 inches until you've got a support point. Then you've got to have a cantilever. So that cantilever has to be strong enough. So I've opted to make it out of some light gauge angle iron. And so I've just been fitting it up at the moment. I'll put a support piece across here. I can't put one at the back because, just bear with me, the mudguard has to fit in there somewhere like that. So something across the back there, like a bar, will hit the mudguard. So it's all going pretty well. And the other thing too is that this will support not only all my body weight, but it also helps position and strengthen the actual fiberglass body. So it's all going all right. You can see I've picked up the fuel tank mount that was here, and these are the original seat mounts through here. I've just machined up some bosses to go through there, and we've just bolted it down, so it's absolutely really strong. So the reason I've done that is so I can get a perfect distance measurement here, so when I start welding these up they don't pull too much and squeeze it up. So we'll tack weld that in there, tack weld these, do a refit, and then we'll fully weld. So that's our seat frame made. I've just got it sitting there, I haven't bolted it on, but I will in a sec. And yesterday I was talking to Justin about this little press steel plate in here. When you think it sort of holds the integrity of the rear of the subframe, I was talking to Justin about putting a piece of pipe up here, across here, to strengthen it up. But unwittingly, this has done exactly that, off a different attachment point and everything. So that was a little bit of a bonus, and I'm glad I made it out of steel now. But I'll get the body back on, and we'll start on the actual seat pan. Rightio, start cutting a seat pan out. So I'll make a cardboard template first, overlay that on a sheet of steel, cut the steel out, roll it, get the right profile. Let's see, we've got a nice little kink in it already for me, somewhere about there. And the process begins. So I think my length's pretty good, but we've just got to do a bit more trimming around the profile of the edge in a couple of spots. Up the back it's all right. I'm looking to try and get about 10 mil. There's a little bit of a chamfer here, so I've got to come around there, not much off that. And I'm just going to make, actually that's what I might do. I might scribe a couple of reference marks off the seam in the mould. That way when I'm putting this back, I'm putting it back in the same spot every time. Should have probably done that before, but yeah, it needs a bit of a trim over there. Not much, but it does. we'll just keep going and just creep up on it. Well, that's getting there. No, I'm filming. So I think I've got it. I'm pretty happy with that. Just, yep, I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's going to look all right. I'll just round these off a bit further here. I might just come in a bit more. Actually, this one's got more of a radius than this one, so I'll just give that a round off and get it onto some steel and cut it out. So what I've got is some 0.9 panel steel. If you think it's a bit light, well, that's, I'm trying to get weight off it. So I've actually got a mate who's got a heap of sheet metal tools and machines at home. So he's going to roll, tomorrow I'm going down there to roll some stiffening ribs into this as well once I get the profile rolled to match the actual body. So what I'm doing now is I'm just marking out around our edge. I've got the cardboard template taped down to the steel. And the other thing too is that this will sandwich the body onto an actual frame. So this doesn't have to have a huge amount of integrity in itself, because the frame, that's why I've opted to make the frame probably a bit, well, heavier than it needed to be. But like I just said, I've just had a bit of a unintended win with it, stiffening up all that subframe. So I'll get the shears out, automated shears I might add, and we'll cut this out. And there it is. Here's our pan cut out. So I'll take this over to the linen shirt, deburr it, set the rollers up, and we'll start rolling this. I'm pretty happy with that. That's come out nicely. I've just marked out where the actual radii start on the seat pan. Now, if you saw my video on making the tune pipe, you'll see that I used to use the back roller, this roller at the back here, to try and get a loop. Well, it's not really practical with this because it's a bit of an odd bod shape. They're not consistent circles, and like I've sort of got to get it to here and square it up, something like that. And what I'm doing is actually bending it up by hand to fit the profile. I'm finding it's a lot easier. Right, so we'll take that out. So something like that, just to kick it off up the back, and we'll go and put that on the bike now, and we'll have a bit of a look. So you can see what I'm trying to achieve. The radius on the front there is not too bad, but once that back sits down, I think it's going to be poking around too much like that, and I might have to flatten it out. But this one's coming in nicely. I'll just have to, you know, steady as she goes, just work it around and see how I go. So looking at that from here, I need to put more of a radius up there to kick that edge there up. Sorry about my finger in the way, I'm trying to explain, get it all in focus. So that edge there, somewhere in there, we need to just give it a kick. So I'll take it over the rollers and we'll do that. Righto, that's our end result. Very happy. Try and get down on the side here. You can just see I've got a couple of mil clearance there and there. right off the edge. I'm trying to get it. You can just see it lifted off there because I'm allowing for the thickness of the material that's got to wrap around and be glued to the seat base. But I've got it bolted down. Interestingly enough, it has really like strengthened everything up. So, and it's the way I sort of envisage it happening too. Surprisingly enough too, that's a nice wide seat, isn't it? My bum's not going to be sore like last time. Well, it was another part of my anatomy that was sore, using rear sets and drop bars, but anyway, won't go there. So yeah, so what I've got to do now is I've got to make up some special big cap head studs that will poke through here. I'll weld them around there and then I'll be able to get a nut up from underneath. So they'll have to all be welded on, so once the seat's covered I can put it on and bolt it all up from underneath. So off to Vinny's tomorrow, my mate. See if we can put some strengthening ribs in here. Well, I'm going to ask him more to the point whether he thinks we need them, because it's pretty strong. The only thing I was worried about was, you know, if my bum goes back, it's loading it up a little bit, not much, but I'm looking at like position, because that's a lot further back than like a Bantam seat finishes normally about there. And if you've ever ridden a Bantam, you know you're sort of scrunched up on a bit. So with my bum, I don't know whether my bum will actually go back that far. Foot peg's obviously down there. So yeah, actually I might even grab a footrest rod bar, throw it in, jump up and just see what I reckon. But anyway, it's all coming together. So far so good. So what I'm doing now is, I don't know if you can see it, shaded perspex. So I haven't quite worked out, I've got to get my side cover and my profile all in proportion. So I thought by putting a sheet of perspex up, I can start picking up lines of frames and things like that and round it off and cut out a cardboard template and sit it up there and just see how it looks. So we're just having a play at the moment to see what we can come up with. So a little bit hard to see because of the glare off the perspex, but I've just slid a sheet of white cardboard underneath it, which I'm going to cut out my template on. But you can see the profile that we've ended up with, which I'm pretty happy about. We'll cut it out into the card and we'll just see how it looks up against the bike. So that's the profile I've ended up with. I've had a picture of Matisse there trying to put things into proportion and things like that, and I reckon it's pretty close, because the other issue is I have to get a full racing number to fit in there. So I can't make it too narrow, not that I'd really want to. I actually quite like it, and I think once I get around to the other side and I've got to go around the pipe, it might make things a little bit easier having it that size. But I don't, from sitting back here, I don't think it looks too bad. It certainly looks in proportion. I've tried to pick up that side of the frame and have angle down with the center line of the down tube as well, so I think it'll work. Just went ratting through the foam that I use, and I found this. I mean, what a perfect piece. Sometimes you really got to have a wing, don't you? So next job, I have to make a template up for the profile around here, so I can put it on the edge of that bit over there and actually form the profile. So where it sits around here. So I'll get some card up against that and we'll trace it out. So I've just used the template to scribe the line into the block, and what I think I'm going to do is, I think I'm actually going to leave the whole lot on the block rather than saw around it. I'm going to give that a go, see how it works. That way I've got a bit of structural integrity in it, because I have to reprofile this edge as well. So our form's starting to take place. You can see down on the profile along here. Trying to sweep this down, you can see the line there that I've got to just gently take all this away, get a nice even flow, put our nice stepped edge all the way around there as well. And this is for a stepped edge for the lip that'll fit underneath the seat, so we'll just have screws through the seat and through this to retain it up the top. So yep, it's progressing and it's going all right. I'm pretty happy. What's happening, Millie's there? Foxy Loxy out there. They settle down. So that's our near side panel done. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to give that a coat of resin straight over the top of it, no glass, no nothing, onto the foam, just to bond it all up a bit. And actually, if I get enough on, it is a really smooth surface already. It doesn't need filling or anything like a tank, because I glassed over with the mesh and the chop mat over the bark last time. So I'm hoping a few layers of resin on this might just be enough to act as the mold. But I'm pretty happy with the way it's turned out. So I've got my first layer of resin on that and it's looking really good. So I'm about to trowel another one on. And so I am just starting to polish up the near side. This is the buck. So this is, I'll make the mould off this. You start to see a bit of a sheen on it. I've just put out a bit of wax on it. I have cut it right back with wet and dry. I've given it a polish with polishing compound, like cut and polish, and now we'll get some wax onto it. All right, so that is the side cover, the mould for the side cover. As you can see here, what I've done is I've jumped on the bandsaw. When it came out off the bark, and it actually separated pretty well except a couple of places around the corners, but generally it just popped straight off, so that's really good. It sort of just relaxed a bit and straightened out. So before I lay up the actual side cover, I've actually stapled it to a piece of wood just so it maintains the profile that I want. So yes, it's progressing all right. And I'm going to digress here just for a second because it's been a few days since I've been at it. Over here, we have a really nice D1 plunger Bantam. I mean, look at this. Just a nice span. What's happened was that I've been contacted by a solicitor who's acting as an executor for a deceased estate, and the person who put this together was incredibly diligent. Things like the box has been sitting for a while, but things like every nut and bolt had a little text across on it where he double checked the tension on it all. We've gone through and done things like pulled these off, given them a wire buff, oiled them and put them back on. But this is a really nice bike. And to top it all off, have a look at this though. There's a full Bantam toolkit that was in the toolbox. And to also top it off, check this out. It's still got the BSA bike pump on it up there. We pulled the plug on this bike and we don't believe it's ever been fired, or unless they've changed a spark plug, because it was brand new. A little bit to get it going, so we had to put it on the roller starters because we couldn't kick start it. And Bantams can be a little bit notorious like that, like being a little bit difficult to start after a rebuild. So we threw it on the roller starters, bang, straight off. The engine is being superbly reconditioned. There's not a noise out of it. I mean, this is just a quality bike. This bike is that accurate. I mean, some of these little details, like it's got the little cap underneath the horn. There's only two things that aren't original on it. That's that lever there, because the original die-cast Y-Pack ones are as rare as you know what. And apparently he wanted a brake light. So the original unfortunately the original egg-shaped tail lights missing. They're the only two things. I mean, it's still got the cable operated. They're using that lever up there as for the cable operated headlight, Y-pack lens in it. That's a cracking bike, isn't it? And I came within a hair's breadth of putting it in my collection. It's that good. But anyway, it's sold. I rang someone and said, who was a great customer who's doing some restoration work, and said, mate, I've got this early plunger. The only thing, I'm just checking on a bloke called Tim Randall's over in the UK, who's the dating officer for the BSA Bantam Club, and it's got the factory records. If this engine and frame left the factory, well, that's just about the icing on the cake, isn't it? Ah, terrific. What a great bike, eh? Anyway, can't stand there looking at that all day. Let's get back into building that one. Okay, so I'm into the right hand side cover, and this one has to go all the way over that big exhaust pipe. So there's this one's a fair bit more intricate. So I've sort of marked it out in 3D on the foam, and we're just starting to form it all up now. So it all goes all right. So we'll keep getting into it. So this is what we've come up with. I'm pretty happy. So time to get a coat of resin on this and start prepping it out. So that's how the buck has turned out for the right hand side cover. So we'll have a bit of a closer look at this. So there's a little bit more filling to do, but generally I'm pretty happy with it. You can see I've trowed a heap of resin onto this one as well. So that should stand up all right, but we'll let that go for a while. I just spent a few hours slashing out in the paddocks while this was all going off, and over the back there is the side cover with a bit of carbon fibre on it as well. So we'll have a look and see, hopefully, that separates. Okay, hopefully you can pick that up. That wider area there is where it's starting to delaminate. Oh, this is working really well. Oh, this is working really good. And there it is. There it is. Bit of the mould stuck on there, and well, it hasn't stuck on there at all. I've got a couple of air bubbles in it, but I'm not too bent out of shape about that. And you can see the full layer of PVA over the top, which has made it pretty easy to release. So I think that's the release agent from now on. So there. Righto, that's the end result. Dressed off nicely. The profile's like really good. I've just got to like obviously put screws in there. Screws along here, and I'll put a little bracket off the seat frame here. Now the thing I had to take into account when designing the side cover was it's got to fit, have a race number fit in it. So for the regulations, there's a certain width and height and everything that the number has to be, so that'll fit in there just nicely with the right sort of profile. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. It's a bit of hand finishing to do around the edges, but other than that, I'm really happy. So now it is back onto the right hand side cover. So I've just pulled the mould off the buck, but it destroyed the buck again as usual. But it's separated pretty easily. So I'll get to and I'll get all this. I'll get all this pulled off, and we'll see how mould ended up. So that's the actual mould sitting on the bike there. I haven't dressed it all the way off. I've just dropped it on there to give you a look. And with this one, I had a fair few issues, and I'll go into it. Right, so when I had this on the buck, I actually put a layer of resin over the buck. What happened was that shrunk and actually split the buck and started to lift up. It split around through here and started to really peel this up. So I came out this morning and it was less than ideal, the layup for this, but it had to sort of be done because I could hear it actually cracking while I was standing there. So anyway, I've got the mould. Now the mould needs a little bit of finishing off inside. And right at this stage, I'm toying with the idea of actually just using this. Just sanding it off and giving it some high fill and just using it, because I did this one out of carbon fibre, so it'll cope with the heat really well over the exhaust. And then all I'd have to do is spend hours and hours and hours and hours prepping this one, because we do have some of the stuff still stuck to it, and I'll have to sand it off, and I still will sand it off. I just won't dress it. So whereas this side is actually probably a bit better than that, and I'll just lay some cloth mat over that with some resin and just use it like that. Just fix some of the edges up. And then dress it off. I think that'll work, and I think it's going to be a bit easier on me as well. But as you saw, it fits really well. I'm really happy with the profile. As I said, it needs a bit more work to reduce this, but I want to put a bit more matte over these edges so I've got stuff there to sand. But yeah, I think it'll come up all right. So it's been a bit of an effort, but a really good outcome. These actually fit up longitudinally on the bike really well with the profile and everything like that. I'm really happy with that. So yeah, I think I'll just get some, like that silk cloth I've got, which is that stuff there, really thin stuff, put it over the top. And then when it comes to paint time, we'll just get some polyester high fill and trowel it on and start sanding it off. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video on doing the side panels for the Sellicks Beach race bike. Please hit like and subscribe. We've still got the subscriber count tickling over, which is really good. Next jobs after this is sort of starting to go through the cycle bits, things like the footrest rod bars, the brakes, brake rods, mudguard mounts, brackets to mount these up. I'll weld a bracket off the exhaust to sort of support this, mind you. Being carbon fibre, it's reasonably stiff, so it's sort of starting to get down to some nitty-gritty little jobs like that. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. And so from Bones at Sellicks BSA Bantams, I'll see you later.